welcome to my channel. I'm so excited for today's video because we'll be discussing all of the books I read in the month of September. And yeah, so let's get started. I had some very good reads this month. So the first book I read in the month of September was The Cruel Prince, and I have heard a lot of mixed reviews about this series. People either love it or hate it. Like, there's very few people in between, I feel like. So I was like very cautious going into this series, and I feel like a lot of the mixed reviews come from people not knowing the real plot of the book. I feel like people are expecting the romance, the romanticy, because everyone talks about Jude and Carden, like over on Book Talk and Bookstagram and everything. People expect a lot of romance in the book, and there isn't really that much romance, mostly fantasy and like fantasy politics and like action. So yeah, if you want to give this series a try and you've heard all of the reviews about it, like, don't be scared. Just don't go into it expecting it to be a romance, because it's not. There is romance, but it's like a subplot, you know? So Cruel Prince starts out with three sisters. I think they're around the age of 7. Two of them are twins. They're Jude, Taryn, and Vivi. And from the start, like, they tell you that Vivi is different from the other two sisters. Like, she has some features that are not human. So these three girls are just having like a normal afternoon in their house with their parents, and then this guy comes in. His name is Maddock, and he basically comes in, kills the parents, and kidnaps the girls to take them back to his place. Crazy, I know, but it's literally the opening of the book. So Vivi, who's the eldest daughter, she's actually his child that he had with the mother. So they all share a mother, but Vivi, she is Maddox's daughter. They're a type of fairy. They're described as red caps, her and Maddox. So when he came to the human world, he came to pick up his daughter. But since he killed the parents, and because he was married to their mom, he also took the other two girls with him. He felt he had like the responsibility to take care of them. He basically treats the other girls like they're just his daughters as well, even though they're human. So he takes them back to Elfheim, which is the fairy world. Maddock is the Grand General of the King, so he has a very high up position in the High Court of Elfheim. So the girls go to school with like the prince and like really powerful people in Elfheim, but they're not treated the same because they're human. They are usually bullied, and Jude hates it. Jude is one of the twins, and she wishes she was a fairy. She wants to fit in. So Maddock has been training them in like sword fight and like preparing them to live in Elfheim. Jude has a plan that she will participate in this competition, and she will catch the attention of one of the princesses, and she will eventually become a knight for the princess. That's what she wants to do, because in Elfheim you can only be a wife or a knight. So Jude does not believe in love. She doesn't want to find love. She doesn't care about love. So she decides she's gonna become a knight for one of the princesses. So that's her plan, but she has to ask permission from Maddock to participate. and Maddox says no. Like, that's not gonna happen. So she still participates, but she knows that without Maddox's permission, she will not become a knight. And yeah, the story takes off from there. There's a lot of twists and turns. Like, I was hooked from the start. So yeah, there's a lot of action, adventure, fighting. As I said, there is a subplot of romance, but that's not really what the book is about. So if you go into it expecting little romance, you're good to go. So I rated this book a 4.5 because, I don't know, like I felt like a 4 stars was too low and a 5 stars was too high, but I did really enjoy it. So I give it a 4.5. Then the second book I read was It Starts With Us. I know Colleen Hoover is a very controversial author, but I feel like her writing is very easy to get into, and that's why a lot of people love it. She definitely writes some very crazy plots, like the twists are crazy. I've read a couple of her books and I have thoroughly enjoyed them. It's nothing fancy, it's not like the best writing you will ever find, but they're good. Like, especially for someone who has just started reading, someone who wants to get into reading. I feel like Colleen Hoover writes very easy, fast-paced plots. So I think for those kind of people, it's really good. So I read It Starts With Us last month was September, but in August I read It Starts With Us, and I know that's a very hyped up book on Book Talk and everywhere. I feel like everyone and their mom has read that book, so I wanted to be part of it because I just recently started reading myself. I was never like a huge reader back in high school or anything. I had read, like, you know, the OG books, The Hunger Games and Looking for Alaska and The Fault in Our Stars, you know, but I was never like a huge reader until recently. Wow, I'm going on a tangent here, who cares? But yeah, I just recently got into reading, and I feel like Colleen Hoover was a good place to start. It's fast-paced, interesting, easy to follow, so I cannot complain. I read It Starts With Us this month, and I gave it a 3 stars. If you have read It Ends With Us, it basically starts right where we left off. We just continue the story of Lily and Atlas, and it's much lighter than It Ends With Us. It gives you like that epilogue feel, you know, and I feel like I needed that after reading that book, because that book pulled out every emotion out of me. I needed the closure, so I'm glad I read It Starts With Us. And yeah, I cannot say much without spoiling It Ends With Us because it is the second book. So yeah, just in case you haven't read it, I'm not gonna spoil it for you. But yeah, I gave It Ends With Us a 3 star, which is not bad. It's just not the most amazing book I have ever read, but I'm glad I did read it. It was a fun read. Not fun, but you know what I mean. I had fun reading it. I think it was a good conclusion to Lily and Atlas's story, so yeah. Then I read Reveal Me, which is a novella in the Shatter Me series. Like, I'm slowly but surely working my way through the series. But yeah, it's really good. If you haven't read the series, I highly recommend. So Reveal Me is a novella between Defy Me and Imagine Me, which are the last 2 books in the series. If you haven't read the series, again, I'm not going to spoil it for you, so I cannot tell you much about what the novella is about. I can only tell you that it's from Kenji's point of view, and it's one of the novellas that actually, like, something new happens, because usually the novellas have been like a different point of view from different characters on stuff that has already happened. But this novella, Reveal Me, is not. It's like completely new. So that was fun. And I'm excited for the last book in the series. And yeah, I gave that one a 3.5 because it's a novella, you know. There's not much to it. I think it's like less than 100 pages. So not a lot happens, but it definitely sets it up for the big conclusion. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that. No spoilers. Then I couldn't stop thinking about The Cruel Prince. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. So I decided to jump into the second book, The Wicked King. And that book starts exactly where we left off. So it's really good because I needed answers, because it ends kind of in a cliffhanger. So yeah, we start off right where we left off. Again, I cannot say much. It's gonna spoil the first book for you if you haven't read it. So I feel like that's a theme in this video. But yeah, it was really good. The action was there. There were even more crazy plot twists. It ends in another cliffhanger. It was really good. I feel like since I was already connected with the characters from the first book, I enjoyed this one way more. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave that one a 5 stars. And I just had to jump into the third and final book in the trilogy immediately. So after The Wicked King, I read The Queen of Nothing. Again, we start right where we left off. It was so much fun. More crazy plot twists, more drama, more romance. It was so good. I just couldn't let go of this series. I cannot recommend it enough. Seriously, if you haven't read it, if you're weary because of the mixed reviews, don't be. Go read it. You won't be disappointed. It's really good. It's really good. So I tried starting other books in the meantime, but my mind was in Elfheim. I couldn't let it go. So I found out that there's actually novellas, just like in Shatter Me. And there's this novella called The Lost Sisters, which is actually, it would be like book 1.5 because it takes place right after The Cruel Prince and before The Wicked King. So it's a novella from Taryn's point of view, and if you read the first book, you know Taryn has a lot to apologize for. So she basically writes this apology letter to Jude, and that's what this novella is. It's the letter Taryn wrote to Jude. So it's all of the events in The Cruel Prince, but told from Taryn's point of view. I hate Taryn. I'm just gonna say it. I hate Taryn. I hated her right from the beginning, so I don't feel like it's a spoiler. She just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So some people think this novella is like a redemption arc for Taryn. It's not. You're just gonna hate her more. But yeah, if you haven't read it, go read it. Just adds so much more context to stuff. There's also a scene in The Cruel Prince where Jude sees Cardan talking to Taryn. Cardan is the main love interest, if I didn't mention it before. So in The Cruel Prince, there's this scene where Jude sees Cardan talking to Taryn, and we don't really know what the interaction was. We just know that Taryn was crying afterwards, and we get to see that conversation in The Lost Sisters. So just for that scene and that scene alone, go read it. It's worth it. I love Cardan. Cardan is like my favorite character out of the whole series, so yeah. That scene was needed. You'll love him more for it, trust me. After The Lost Sisters, I thought I would be done with the trilogy and the world and everything. I wasn't. So I decided to give in and read The Stolen Heir. If you don't know what The Stolen Heir is, it's like the sequel to the Cruel Prince trilogy. It's like a spin-off series for the Cruel Prince, and it's Oak's story. Oak is Jude's younger brother. So it's the same world, same characters, same everything. It takes place, I think, 8 years after the Queen of Mything. I was missing the world, I was missing the characters, so I got into The Stolen Heir, and again, I cannot tell you a lot about the plot because it would spoil the trilogy for you. So all I can say is it's worth it if you enjoy the world. Also, the main character, Ren, is really fun. Even though it's Oak's story, the main character of this book, the narrator, is actually Ren. She appears briefly in the Cruel Prince trilogy, but she's like a minor character. In here, she's the protagonist. We get her point of view. This book is basically her adventure with Oak. She's really fun. She's also a strong female character, just like Jude. So if you enjoyed Jude, you might like Ren too. I personally love Jude more. Jude and Cardan are like my babies, but Ren and Oak are pretty fun as well. I gave this book a 4 stars. It was really good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the world. I cannot wait for the next book to be released. I think it's going to be released in March in 2024. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Then I read another popular TikTok book, which is Red, White, and Royal Blue. Actually, the movie just came out recently, and I made the mistake. I made the mistake of watching the movie before reading the book, but that's okay because I feel like they're very different. So if you watch the movie and you want to read the book, totally do it, because there's a lot of scenes that were not in the movie that were in the book. There's a lot of characters that were in the book who are not in the movie. So I feel like you should totally do both. You should watch the movie and read the book. It's what I did. If you don't know what it's about, it's the first son of the United States. His name is Alex. He has never really liked the Prince of England. His name is Henry. They have been like enemies for quite some time, and he really hates him. So it's a true enemies to lovers. This book starts off with a royal wedding. Henry's brother is getting married. So of course, Alex, the first son of the United States, is invited with his sister. And since they really hate each other, they had like a confrontation at the wedding reception. They basically topple the cake over, and it was a really expensive cake, of course, for a royal wedding. So they topple the cake over and they create a huge scandal, and it's all over the news, and the president gets to know about it. and she basically tells Alex that he has to go make amends. He has to go back to England and like make the media believe they're friends. So Alex is forced to go back to England and spend some time with Henry, definitely forced proximity, and they become friends kind of, and they start texting and like sending emails to each other, and yeah, the friendship like blossoms from there and eventually turns into more. So we get Alex's point of view during the whole thing, and it's just really cute. Like, I was giggling, kicking my feet the entire time. I could not stop swooning over these characters. I love Alex, I love Henry, I love them together. It's like so much fun. Like, if you haven't read it, it's definitely lighthearted, cute, fun. So if you're into that, go read it. I gave it a 4.5 stars. The reason why it wasn't a 5-star read for me was because there's a lot of politics involved, and like me personally, I'm not that into politics, so it wasn't a 5-star read, but it was close. It was a 4.5. Like, the romance was 100% a 5-star, but like the politics kind of lost me a little bit. If you're into politics, there's definitely plenty of that. It was a fun read. The last book I read in the month of September was The Inheritance Games. I also feel like this is a very hyped up book as well, especially on Book Talk. It's a very fast-paced, short chapters, like incredibly short chapters. I'm talking like 2 to 5 pages per chapter, so it's like it goes insanely quick. So if you're into that, if you're in a reading slump, definitely go read that. Also, it's a YA mystery, and it keeps you on your toes like the whole time. Basically, the story is about Avery, and Avery is, you know, your average teenager. Her mom passed away, and her dad doesn't really talk to her that much, so she lives with her half-sister. They have the same dad but different moms, and then randomly one day she gets a visit in school from this guy who is wearing a suit. Like, he's basically Avery's age, but he's wearing a suit, and he basically kicks the principal out of the office and tells Avery that he needs her to come with him because his grandfather has passed away, and Avery is required to be there when they read his will. Avery's thinking like, I have never met this guy, I have never met his grandfather, so like, why would I be in the will? But she goes to Texas with her sister. That's where the family, the Hawthorne family, lives, and that's where the read will be read. So she goes and she does some background research on Tobias Hawthorne, and she finds out that he was a billionaire. So she's expecting to get something from the will. She doesn't know what it could be, but she's like, maybe he knows about me, maybe he knows that, you know, she's struggling with money, maybe he knew her mom or something. She expects something small, but she finds out that this guy has basically disinherited his family and he left everything to Avery. So now Avery is the billionaire, and yeah, the story takes off from there. It is a mystery, so we are trying to find out the entire time why he did what he did, why he left everything to Avery. We're also skeptical of the Hawthorns because, you know, like, this girl basically came out of nowhere and took everything from us. Also, Tobias was like super into riddles and he left like a riddle to his grandsons and Avery. Yeah, it was really fun, really fast-paced. I was never bored. I would definitely recommend. And yeah, those are all the 9 books I read this month. I hope you take some recommendations from this video, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this. I love talking about books. If you do as well, definitely stick around, because I would love to keep on making videos just like this one. Also, if you have any recommendations for me, books you want me to check out, definitely leave them in the comments down below. And also let me know what you read this month, what were your 5-star reads. And yeah, bye guys.